Picture this, two guys trapped in the South Charleston Public Library. One guy loves movies, the other, well, would rather be watching reality TV. Can they survive each other's films? Find out on Real Opposites, a library podcast about movies, hosted by Josh and Aaron from the South Charleston Public Library.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
And we're back for another episode of Real Opposites, discussing the movies that we chose last podcast, The Crow and August Rush.
So Aaron, why August Rush? Why another love story?
Okay, first of all...
I'm just bringing the heat right out of the gate.
You are. So first of all, I think that's up for interpretation.
I think it's not.
It's not.
It's really not.
So
I'll give it to you on what were the other ones, like Coyote Ugly and
I don't know, most
something
of
else
them.
that you were like not a love story, but clearly has a defining love story that is the heart of the story.
But so I hadn't seen this one in a long time.
Yeah.
But I knew I liked it, and honestly, when I thought about the movie, the thing I remembered was the struggle of August as an orphan,
mm-hmm.
and like his way of becoming his own person and finding his parents. I honestly did forget that there is a heavy love story in this, and that's part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
I always saw this movie more of a not so much coming of age, but kind of, but also a family reuniting.
Yeah, I mean, it's all from his point of view.
Right.
So
I guess maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But when you messaged me that night when we were all watching it and you were like, you picked another love movie, I was like, he's not wrong. But
I'd like to cut in there. The night we were all watching it, we weren't all watching it together. We just all happened to be watching August Rush at the same time.
Right.
That's crazy.
But it's just one of those things where, and that's why I say open for interpretation, because my outlook of the movie, and maybe it's because I don't enjoy love movies, supposedly. I think my outlook on it is just more about the family and more about the kid.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it's up for interpretation, because my interpretation is definitely different than y'all's. I don't see it as a love movie.
I think time-wise, and I didn't time it, but it's about half and half.
Yeah.
August's
Oh,
story.
no.
And
They spend a lot of time, Carrie Russell and
100%.
Carrie Russell and Jonathan
there's-
Rhys Meyers in there.
But
A
I
lot.
forgot about all that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not what sticks out in my mind.
Yeah.
And that might just be because that's the kind of stuff that I don't care about.
Yeah, it's just not what you
What I
remembered
took
the
from
most.
it. Yeah. So you weren't wrong. I will say that. This definitely has a love story.
To be fair, the stuff with August, that part of the film is the best part of the film.
Right. That's true.
Because the romance, the love story is. I thought I was watching a Hallmark movie.
Right.
At points.
Yes.
It's really.
It's a lot.
It's just overflowing with cheese and like just angst.
Right.
Like it's a bit much.
Yeah. You could throw a Christmas tree up and it would be one of their Christmas movies for
Yeah,
sure.
you just put a dog and Dean Cain in there somewhere and you have a Hallmark movie. Complete with very boring songs.
There you go.
Really? I kind of like the songs.
I don't remember them, honestly, so I can't say that it made an impression, but they didn't.
They were nominated for Best Original
Were they?
Songs and a Soundtrack.
I don't
Also,
know.
maybe it's just me. It was weird, but the first kind of opening number, like when they cut back and forth between them both singing, like he's singing at the club and she's
She's playing. She's not singing.
she's playing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The cello, I think.
Yeah. The sound mix is awful. This is just a technical thing. I was just like, that was like the most, like, especially in the rock, the club thing, it's like the most generic background music, and it just sounds like two separate recordings. And whoever did the sound design is not on their A game.
Yeah.
That's just a little thing that I noticed. I was like, it really took me out of it.
Yeah.
Beyond the just kind of generic
Music.
But I think at the time it came out, that was like a big thing, like mixing like alternative rock with like classical music.
No,
And so I think that's what made it part of this movie. Similar to the style that like August plays the guitar was like when it came out, I feel like you hadn't seen that in a lot.
I just mean the
movies.
actual sound mix.
Oh yeah, no, that was
like the music, like
the way it was
the
put
sound
together.
effects they're using and the way they are mixing it and the levels are very. Anyway, that's just a nerdy technical thing.
Well, the whole movie's sound mixing is super off. It's almost like a horror movie where they back the dialogue so low
Yeah.
that you have to watch the movie on super
Right.
high
Yeah.
so that whenever there's a musical moment, it's just this wall of sound,
Yeah.
which a wall of sound is a powerful thing when it comes to music.
Yeah.
But I guess to answer your question, because I didn't yet, why I picked this movie, I'm a big fan of Freddie Highmore. So I saw this back when it came out, and I've basically watched him as a
Grow
kid
up.
and then grow up, and he's great now too. So I really like him, and I like the story behind this movie. I do think it's a kind of a moving story.
I think his story is.
Yes. Well, I don't count the love story, remember?
Yeah.
So the story that matters.
This time we're just going to talk about half a movie.
Right. The other half is whatever. I mean, the other half is important in a way, and it definitely plays into the whole of the story.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just his story is really good, and him being basically this genius in music, but a orphan and trying to find his way and all these opportunities that come his way. I don't know. Just the movie itself, I really liked. It's one of those touching movies, or at least for me it is. So yeah, I mean, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Freddie Highmore, like him and Robin Williams especially, kind of elevate what's going on there. Because like the way you're just describing it is really like chitsy and like cheesy, kind of like Hallmarky, you know. But they make it better than it should be, probably.
Yeah. 100%. That's what saves the whole movie, I think.
Yeah. Like I said, that's definitely the best part of the movie.
So,
Did you know Freddie Highmore was 15?
Was he? In this?
are you sure?
It was like,
Yeah,
like 11.
he was born a year before me, and this was in 2007.
Okay.
Oh.
So I guess first things first, did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? How do you feel in general about the movie?
I mean, it's not Coyote Ugly.
Okay. I
didn't,
love
like,
that
I
part.
didn't, I didn't hate it. I didn't really like it terribly,
Okay.
very much. Like I said, I just thought it was really overly, like, really trying to manipulate me
Yeah.
really hard, and it wasn't well made enough for
do
that
that.
to work.
Yeah.
Like, if Spielberg does it, it's going to work because he knows what he's doing and
Right.
knows construct a story. Something like that. You're making like a very sentimental film. I didn't really buy it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't. And the music didn't particularly make much of an impact. And there's just so many like stereotypical kind of things going on. Like, for instance, like William Sadler, who plays Carrie Russell's mom, or plays Carrie Russell's dad. Sorry, that would have been a fun movie. That would have been an
That would have
interesting
been
movie.
really interesting.
Hey, we're gonna throw something different in here.
William Sadler's going to be the mom.
That would have been interesting. But yeah, like he's playing the way he plays her dad, and like it's like
So
super
typical.
like controlling,
Yeah.
like manager / dad person, like
Right.
just like one note. That's how the whole thing. It just felt very one note, aside
Yeah.
from the Freddie Highmore stuff, and even that is like just I don't know, like this kind of like orphan. I feel like I've just seen it
Well,
before.
I didn't know, and this might be why, is the movie is actually based off of Oliver Twist.
I was getting ready to say
So that is probably why it seems kind of familiar. The main characters, you have August, which is Oliver,
Yeah.
Wizard, which is Fagin, Arthur,
Oh,
that's
yeah, that
the
makes
Artful
sense, yeah.
Dodger, which
Yeah.
makes complete sense. So, and then it goes even more in depth, but yeah, it has been done. This is just
Yeah.
a different way of telling it. And I don't disagree on the fact that I think the music, not super impactful. I mean, the scenes that they're doing with the orchestra and stuff at the end, I thought really fit the moment, and that is impactful a little bit.
yeah.
But the rest of the music isn't. And like you said, some of it is just so stereotypical or Hallmark or
Yeah, I mean, it's-
really trying. And I think that's why it goes back to I forgot there was a love story, because that part is not very memorable. There's
No,
not
it's
much to
not.
it.
And,
The
like-
part with the dad's not much memorable, other than the fact that the main thing about him is that he's the reason she doesn't have her kid.
Yeah.
Like that's impactful. That makes a difference in the whole story.
Yeah.
But other than that, you could almost remove the love story
Yeah.
and
yeah.
have a better movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, of course, I like the movie in a whole, but watching it back, I did see that too. It was just like, this is why I don't remember any of this.
There's a lot of like, you really got to suspend some disbelief here.
Right.
That like he's gonna buy off everyone in the maternity ward or something. That like, no, this kid, no, just
Right.
it's like what? This is like 2008.
Yeah.
This is like
Because he fakes her
This is not like
signature.
1929.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. Exactly. I feel like they'd be like, that's not your signature.
It's not legal. This is really wrong.
Right.
We're not going to do this.
This movie kind of tries to pull off magical realism and does not.
No,
quite
it
get
doesn't.
there.
It
That's
really
exactly
doesn't.
because they definitely try to sell you on, the music magic is real,
Yeah.
and it's like we're not there.
No, I'm not buying it. It's just like I don't feel the conviction in the film.
Yeah.
I mean, they try their damnedest at the end, like with the concert.
Yeah.
And it's like
I'm not gonna lie, the end almost makes me tear up.
does it,
It does.
where they see they see each
The
other
very
in the
end,
yeah.
when
That's-
and I think it's more Freddie Highmore's performance.
yeah.
Like when he turns around, which is like the last shot of the movie, but when he turns around and you just see it in his face
Yeah.
that everything happened the way
Yeah.
he.
That's one of the
Like
best.
that's what gets me,
one
not
of the-
like the lovers come back together.
Yeah, it's one
Like,
of the
I
best
could care
parts of the
less.
movie, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty well like edited and everything, like the way they cut back and forth and them coming and
Right.
but it's like it is cheesy, like
Yeah.
they're running towards each other to the same place and like romantic, like you've seen it a million times.
And I don't like those kind of movies normally. So
Yeah.
like this is an exception. I really do enjoy this movie as a whole.
Even some of the like orphan stuff seems a little glossed over.
Yeah.
Like the difficulties of,
It's not as gritty.
well, I mean, not even like gritty, but just like feels like authentic. And it's like
Right.
like Freddie Highmore, like he's a great actor, but I don't know if they gave him a ton to do that's not just like overly optimistic and talented young boy.
Right.
Like I feel like there should be more depth to what he's feeling and what
Right.
he's going through than just, I'm going to conduct a concert and they're just
Right.
going to come. And that's like,
yeah, I
it's
mean,
like,
I do get that. I think there is some depth to it. You also have his relationship with Wizard, which is Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And that's like a wrench thrown in there. And he was like bullied in the beginning and stuff like that. I get where you're coming from. You see glimpses of it,
yeah.
but then there's not. It's like, okay, he was bullied, but then it's never mentioned again,
Yeah,
or
no.
it's not a part of his life beyond the moment he's bullied.
Yeah. And I mean, I get it's like a PG movie or whatever. Like they're not
I
trying
guess
to,
that's true too, though.
they're not trying to be Fight
Right.
Club or something, but it's like,
It makes it
I
more
feel
of a
like-
Hallmark type movie.
yeah, it's just like, and
You don't get
that's
that
the thing
depth.
about those kind of movies is they kind of gloss over any kind of real dimension or depth
Right.
in order to just kind of be quote unquote uplifting,
Right.
and I think the best uplifting movies are the ones where you see the sacrifice and you see the struggle of whatever the person's going through or has
Right.
to go through to get where they want to go. And if you don't have that, then it just kind of feels unearned. And that's what I kind of get out of this is I just
Okay.
never felt like there was
Enough.
enough given to his struggle.
Yeah.
Aside from just superficially. you know,
Right.
there's-
And I could definitely see that. I could see where it could be deeper. But for me, it works. So, I mean, I guess, I'm the target audience. But, for me, that's what really buys me into this movie. And that's what I like it is his story. And like I said, that end scene is mainly his performance that gets me.
Yeah.
And knowing his struggle, what was in the movie. I don't know. That's what I like about it.
Yeah.
But maybe it's easier for me, like, because there's not so much depth. It's kind of an easy movie to watch.
yeah.
It's not like super emotional roller coaster kind
Doesn't
of thing.
demand much.
Right.
I will say that for i.e. the bully in the beginning, I think that kid does a great job.
The bully.
The kid who's playing his bully.
Oh, okay.
It's like I don't know, the way he delivers like you don't hear anything line and he's
Right.
like almost tearing up when he says it, and I'm like if you watch the little actor, it's like he's putting all this back thought on it. This kid can't hear anything because I don't want anyone else
Right.
to feel
Yeah.
it's like just a little part, but like that kid really throws it in on the acting, and I was, this poor kid that gets 3 minutes and 4 speaking lines in a movie and they're all awful is going super hard trying to sell it.
Right.
And I was like, oh, little baby actor. Which is like, I
He
don't
went the
know.
method route. He was like, I'm going to study.
Right.
I guess the character's name is
He bullied like kids at school for 6
Right,
months
just to
get,
get
to get
prepared.
preparation
Get
for
a
this.
I don't know. He's never been in anything, it doesn't seem like, but his name in the movie was Mannix.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Most of the kids are
So-
fine, actually. I think that the child actors do a little
Yeah,
bit better
nobody's
than
like terrible in the movie.
adults.
Like, yeah,
Right.
but they do a better job. I mean, aside from Robin Williams.
Well, that's
They
what I
do
was going
it.
to say is, and Robin Williams playing kind of a bad guy was interesting. But I feel like his character is an interesting character in the fact that he's bad, but it's not all for horrible reasons. I mean, it's very self-centered, but he also does help the kids some.
Yeah.
But I thought his character's pretty interesting. And I think he does a great job pulling it through.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to bring him to, like, he's going to be amazing in everything he
Right.
does. And also, like, there's a little, I'm not going to be surprised at, like, the main reason he took the movie, because I think, where did they shoot this? In New York, I think? So whenever Robin Williams does a movie, he puts it in his contract that they have to hire whatever percentage of the crew have to be people homeless.
Oh, okay.
People from either shelters or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be surprised if that's one of the main reasons he did the movie, was so that he could get people. Because Robin Williams is just, I mean, he's one of the best human beings ever to ever live. Like, as far as I'm concerned, he's just, since they shot it in New York, I would imagine that was a big factor in him wanting to do the movie. Because I imagine he didn't shoot for he probably shot for like a week.
Right.
Like, he doesn't have a huge part.
He doesn't.
And he was such a big star at that point that they would have shot him out.
Yeah.
Which means that they just
Do
focus
all
on
his
his
scenes.
scenes for the week that they have him, or the 2 weeks or whatever. So for him, it means people got fed
Right.
and got paid for that week or two that he was on the set.
That's awesome though.
So,
I mean, with his performance or whatever, with that character does make an impact on the movie for me.
Yeah.
And
it could have been one-dimensional character.
You're right.
But hiring Robin Williams,
That's what I was going to say.
brings more depth to it, makes it more.
It was one of the most
well-rounded.
important parts in my mind.
Yeah.
And without Robin Williams doing it, I think this movie would be a lot worse.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. The Freddie Highmore being in it and Robin Williams for me is what carries the whole movie. But Robin Williams' character is pretty important.
Oh yeah.
Because that's where, in my mind, that's where a lot of the issues come for August in his head. He's being a little bit brainwashed, and even when Wizard shows up at the school, and is like, I'm his dad. You get that performance out of Freddie about like the struggle should I say it's my dad? Should I not?
Yeah.
Because it's not his dad. But just Robin Williams made that part.
Oh yeah.
Because without it, it probably would have been a one-dimensional kind of thing.
Should have just hired Robin Williams to play Freddie, to play August Rush too. Just hire Robin Williams to play everybody. I mean, he could do it better than anybody.
It would be a weird movie though.
That'd be weird. I will say this was the first movie I'd ever seen Robin Williams in. And
Like ever?
Ever.
Ever?
Like
Like Mrs. Doubtfire? Aladdin. Wait, I mean,
Aladdin,
that's
but that's not him. That's not his face.
Yeah.
But
That's crazy.
But my
This was
point
your
was,
first-
for a while, I was like weirded out by him because
Really?
of him playing Wizard, and because I think he did a really great job playing like a character that's like
Kind of a creep.
man, he's really good at playing bad guys. Because then I saw him in other things, and it wasn't
Yeah.
like
Right.
He's good at playing everything.
Yeah. But I do think that's one thing I like about him playing this part is I haven't seen him in a lot of parts like that.
1 hour photo.
I haven't seen that. I need
You
to
would
see
really
it.
like
I
it.
know.
It's very good.
I know. I've
He
always
is-
wanted to see
But
it.
he's and even in that, he's the. I mean,
He's just creep.
he's not. He's like it's like a character portrait, kind of like Taxi Driver or something. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a character portrait, and he's not like there's no good or bad guys. It's just
Right. It is how it
he's
is.
Cy, that's the character.
Yeah.
And that's a great movie. You would really like it.
I've always wanted to see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think seeing him in this part, I really enjoyed him being kind of a different than like Miss Downfire. Or,
Yeah. He's not doing his comedy.
Yeah.
Like shtick.
right. I thought it was really good,
That's usually his best performances, like that, and like Insomnia.
which I also haven't seen.
It's really good.
Yeah.
He's a serial killer. In
Is
it.
that
That's
Stephen
with-
King's Insomnia?
No, it's
Oh.
Al Pacino and
Just a different movie completely.
yeah, it's like kind of like a cop serial killer movie, but it's
Oh,
really good. And all
I would
takes
like
place
that too,
takes
probably.
place in wherever it doesn't like you don't have any nighttime for
Mm-hmm.
like a month or something.
Oh,
Or
that's
like
cool.
yeah, it's really good. It's a very good movie.
Oh, now I want to see that. It sounds like I need to go back and watch more Robin Williams.
You should.
I mean, of course, I've seen like Aladdin and Mork and Mindy and
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Miss Downfire, the one about the doctor.
Patch Adams.
Patch Adams.
Yeah. Good Will Hunting. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
He'll break your heart.
it's
man.
good.
Oh, I don't want that.
But it's so. I mean, it's it's so good.
This was like the epitome of an emotional movie for me. That's
okay.
about as emotional as I like it to get.
Yeah.
Like when there's almost a tear coming out of my eye, but not
Just like,
enough.
No, we'll put it back in.
Yeah, where it's like if I squint hard enough, it doesn't happen. That's what I like.
Don't make me feel emotions, movie.
I just want it to be
Why isn't anybody getting axe murdered?
right. Exactly.
You might like The Birdcage, Aaron.
Oh yeah, the Birdcage is.
I've seen parts
fantastic.
of Birdcage.
It's a lot of fun.
I've
And
never
he
seen
plays
all
the
the way
straight
through.
man in that. It's not like not comedic, but
Yeah.
Yeah, Nathan
plays,
Lane's
he
the
plays
like
super straight.
flamboyant one.
Yeah, I've seen parts of that.
And Gene Hackman is so funny the way he played. Oh, it's a great movie.
I need to watch it all the way through. But yeah, I mean, as far as August Rush, I would say watching it back,
Do you like it more or less?
I may have liked it a little less because I realized how much the love scenes, or not
Yeah.
the love scenes, but the
Why-
love story was in
Why
it.
don't you like love stories?
I guess the same reason I don't like action. It's boring to me. I don't know. I'm a bitter person and I don't like life.
Okay, so this is gonna sound really like, I guess, kind of stereotypical. For me, like a love story in a movie, it's like it doesn't really matter how bad it is. It just makes me feel warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
Something about the August Rush love story, I'm just, oh, it's magic and they're in love with each other. Like it's
See,
just, I
I
don't
mean,
know. There's something
But that's how I feel about like him finding his parents.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's more magic to
Well,
me.
that's-
I mean, cool.
think-
They also found each
I
other,
think,
but
like for me, it's the execution that
Yeah.
is lacking, not
Right.
necessarily what it is. I mean, I love love stories. I
Yeah,
love romantic films, and
see, I don't. I
if
think
they
I'm
feel
too,
genuine, if they feel concocted to
Yeah.
check boxes, to like, oh, this will get someone
Right.
Like, this will make someone cry. This.
right.
But if they are coming from a genuine place, I'm trying to think of something that was similar to this.
I think.
So this movie came out when I was 14.
Yeah.
In this movie, there's one part where Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, where he's meeting back with his brother, and his brother has him up on a screen singing Lila's song for some reason, presumably just to mess with him.
Right.
And he runs up and he's like, hit me, basically, like trying to, like, I'm
Right.
suffocating here. And I remember when I was young, that like hitting somewhere and then watching it as an adult feels really flat.
Right.
That could have been a really powerful scene, but
Yeah.
they just didn't put
You
the
almost
work in.
like you can
to-
feel that it's supposed to be powerful.
Yeah.
And I think that may be why I would definitely watch this movie again.
Mm-hmm.
I still like this movie.
Yeah.
I may like it a little less because I don't think some of the things that hit, because I also watched it as a kid
when you were younger, yeah.
or when I was younger. And so I think it hit different at that time. But, however many years, a lot of years later,
14 years.
later, I've seen a lot and been
It's
through a lot.
jaded
And
and
it's
bitter.
just not, yeah. I think that's the answer for why I don't like love
Well,
movies.
you would have been like 20 when this came out.
What have I?
This was like 2008, right?
2007.
2007. Well,
I would have been
19.
No, I would have been
Were you born 88?
17, depending on when it was.
when were you born? 88?
I would have been 18.
Okay.
I was older than I thought when this came out. Okay, so I would have been 18.
So yeah, you would have not like you would just be, oh,
Right, exactly.
this is pre.
Yeah.
It's pre bitter, Aaron.
Right. Not the heart wasn't as hardened. But yeah, Freddie Highmore, like I said, that's one of the reasons I think I really like this movie too, is just I'm a big fan of his.
Just call it Freddie Highmore. Be like, can I adopt you?
Well, remember, he's
Sir, I'm
30.
32.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm like 30. I don't think you can adopt me.
I appreciate it.
He's one of
Also, I'm a
those.
millionaire.
Right. That's why I'm trying to adopt you.
He's one of those with the forever baby face.
He does. He does still look
He does.
young. What is he on some doctor show now or something?
Yeah,
He's on The Good Doctor.
he plays a good doctor. He plays an autistic doctor.
Yeah.
It's a great show. I'm behind like 2 seasons, but it is a great show. And
But
I
he's
don't
still-
even like doctor films.
He still looks like he's about like 19 or 20.
Yeah.
Like he's still, it just looks very young.
Yeah. He plays odd characters or different characters
Yeah.
very well.
It's funny how like some child actors, they will always look
child actor.
younger than
Yeah.
they are. Like,
Thomas Brody Sanker. He was like the little kid in Love Actually. He's
Oh,
also
okay, yeah.
in The Queen's Gambit. He's the chess prodigy that she goes toe to toe
oh,
with.
it is.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
he's also in Game of Thrones and all kinds of other stuff.
He
but
is.
he's got that face of
Yeah, he
like,
still looks
you
very
look
young.
like you're 4 for your entire life.
Yeah.
But yeah, Freddie Highmore, like I said, that's one of the reasons I think I really like this movie too. Is just I'm a big fan of his other stuff he's done, Toast, and he did great as Norman in Bates Motel. Like he really brought that creep factor to that. I don't know.
And they made him.
He's just good.
I mean, I watched like the first couple seasons, I think, and he was very like brought some depth to it and wasn't just like a one-dimensional kind of norm. I mean, it was
Right.
very similar to Anthony Perkins. You know, Anthony Perkins is not in the original Psycho. You know, he's of course he is killing people, but
Right.
there's reasons why he is the way he is. And,
Yeah.
you know, the show, what I saw, did a pretty good job, and he did a great job of making that kind of rich and believable.
Yeah, and I think the one that played his mom, what is it,
Vera Farmiga.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great too.
Yeah,
I like
she
her
was,
a lot.
and she's perfect in that show.
Yeah.
I loved that. But that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Great show, though. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all in all, I really like August Rush. I still like it. I would still recommend it. I think the story on Freddie Highmore's part, August Rush part, is really good.
Yeah, that's definitely the high point.
And I mean,
of the movie.
maybe the love story works for some people. I don't like love stories, and it's kind of real cheesy love stories. So
it is.
for me, it was forgettable. I didn't
cheesy.
realize how much in the movie it was.
slathered in cheddar.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I remember the opening scene, it being about them. And then I remember them being in the inn.
There's like
That's what I remember about the love part.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't remember how heavy it was.
there's parts that look like they were like an old Navy commercial or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like when they're on the rooftop the morning after, and it's like all these like, I don't know, 20 somethings that just look like they fell out of a Gap commercial
Right.
or something. It's like
Throwing stuff at 'em or whatever,
waking up on the rooftop.
Being
and it's-
sprayed with champagne.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like,
that's what they do.
like,
Yeah.
what is this?
Now get your jeans for only $10.
Yeah, for sale this Sunday.
Okay, I guess you guys had boring 20s because that didn't fill out plates for me, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Oh well, no, I haven't been sprayed with champagne on a rooftop in New York with a
I
woman
definitely
on
haven't
a
in
couch.
New York.
yeah, not
With a
New
woman on
York,
the
but
couch.
I don't think I
like-
have either, but I know it didn't happen in New York at least. And if
I
I was
know.
sprayed, it was an accident. It wasn't like a cool story.
I
Actually,
bet everybody, like after the movie, like the Jonathan Rhys Meyers and Kerry Russell are just sitting around dinner, like, you remember when Bob sprayed us with champagne on the roof? Oh, what a good time!
what a good time. That was fun.
What a great time that was.
Oh, that was Alex O'Loughlin. Excuse you. He's in Hawaii 5
Hawaii 5-0, like
Yeah.
the new one.
Time travel from the old one.
I actually like the new Hawaii 5 He's the main guy in it, but it's got Grace Park
Okay,
in it. And if
Yeah.
Grace Park is in something,
you watch.
I watch it.
I live by two rules. Grace Park's in a show. I'm watching it. If it's not in a show, I don't watch it.
Nope, that's not the other rule. But
So I will mention that I was reading about the few little facts on IMDb about this movie, but Robin Williams.
Robbins
Williams.
That would be a very different movie. Definitely not a what was it? Like a family choice movie or something. There's like a little thing on the DVD cover. Like, this does not be that movie.
Robin Williams' performance as Wizard was reportedly inspired by rock star Bono. Yes, I know.
I can't. I don't know. I don't see that.
I don't know.
I could because I don't like Bono, and I see how I could make a hateable character.
Speaking of, I did mention before that Jonathan Rhys Meyers does sing all of his songs in the movie. But the person that I think we should talk about singing all their own songs is that little girl.
Was that actually her singing?
That's her.
That was,
Really?
That was
really
her
good.
voice.
And when he's conducting the symphony,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's just like her.
And when she's introduced in
riffing.
the thing where it's her doing like the
In church.
Yeah, the gospel.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's awesome.
And she was
That's
really
a
young.
grown woman's voice.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, there were, I mean, and that's what I say. I think that's what carries this movie
Yeah.
is performance by people that can perform.
Yeah.
In
I mean,
some
they,
of them.
They cast great actors. You
Yeah.
got like Michael T. Williamson too.
The other thing I read was about Freddie Highmore actually learning how to conduct for the movie, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So he had to learn all that just to. I thought he just would
His
get up
little-
there and move his hands. I mean, you know.
Yeah. The little method actor there.
Yeah, exactly.
And she was only 11.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, it was all right.
All right. I'll take all right.
We'll take all
All
right.
right.
Yeah.
Could have been better.
You're right. And that's what I say. Watching back, I could see where it would be only all right for you. So
Yeah.
it makes sense. And
It's not in the concept, it's in the execution.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting about movies in general. I mean, like I said, when I was younger, I absolutely loved this movie.
Yeah.
And I remember
Well-
feeling the magic of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But watching it back, like you guys said, the magic, they don't reach that level.
Well, it's
So
like
Jaded Aaron and, just doesn't
There's-
feel that.
Yeah, I also saw this movie in theaters.
I think I
And
did
like
too.
I said, what they're doing with the sound is really manipulative. The sound mixing in the movie is done as such. The voices are like this.
Right.
And so when they play it loud enough for you to hear the music,
crazy.
then the music's crazy. Sound manipulate your emotions. So when you're being bombarded with
Especially
these
in a
big
theater.
rising sounds
Right.
in like a theater with the surround sound, it's going to take you to a different place, I think,
And
emotionally.
that's why I think the ending works.
Yeah.
Is because you do have that
It's also
getting
like,
higher.
So a couple things like so movies don't really change, just you change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
so
true,
like
too.
you can watch
Right,
a movie
exactly.
10, 20 years later and feel differently about it. You know?
Yeah.
And like, there's like a Roger Ebert quote I like where he's talking about a movie isn't about what it is about, it's about how it is about it.
Right.
How it's made and how it's written, and the execution is most of the time more important than what a movie's about.
Right.
And what kind of angle you're coming at it from.
And I think
this one was a generic big budget Hallmark movie.
I mean, looking back, I could definitely see that. And that ties into last podcast when we were talking about Brain Scan, because I said, I was excited to watch it again, and I'm glad it held up.
Yeah, I think
to me.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it still held up, but I can definitely see the difference from when I watched it when I was young.
Yeah.
Because that's probably the last time I watched it is when it came out.
Yeah.
And I could definitely see it. And I see how this movie would be great for me to recommend to like my nieces, and they probably would feel the magic.
Yeah.
I think it's just something that as adults, or we've been through more since I saw it. It just it doesn't reach that level.
It's not quite mature enough
Right.
to like really hold up as an adult.
Right.
Like something like E.T. for instance is like it works for
No matter what.
everyone.
Right.
It'll always work. It's like the Wizard of Oz or something. It's like it'll always touch people.
Right.
And I'm just using that as an example. It's coming from a real place. Like that's still his most personal film
Right.
that he's ever made, and he'll tell you that because it's about his parents divorcing and how he coped with it and everything. So
Yeah.
it comes, and you can feel that in a film. Like there's some things you can't write into a script. It's just like a feeling you get. Movies are about feelings, not really
Right.
I think,
analytical.
I guess it's a possible love story, but it's not like a believable love story.
Yeah, no.
Like a one night stand doesn't derail your entire career for two people for like
Right.
ever,
And
Yeah,
also,
he, like,
is
stopped
she like a
singing
famous
and-
cellist?
Yeah.
So like,
How hard
gets
would she be
pregnant
to
and
find?
stuff.
I mean,
Yeah.
but you can still Google like, okay, so what? So she's a famous cellist. So she was in
Where
New
is
York
she
on this
performing?
day. What concerts were going on this day? And then I mean, this is like the internet existed.
Right.
You
Yeah.
could find out things.
Yeah.
This is not like 11 years later. It's like still pining over this one girl,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you never even was like, let me turn on Windows.
Like cell phones would have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this is
Like send her a text.
Yeah.
well, texting wasn't really as big a thing. Like this would have been.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
this would like
that's
if the
true,
movie
I
takes place
guess.
2008, this would have been like,
Early.
late 90s, early
I mean,
2000s.
Okay,
Yeah.
but well, that's true.
But
right.
still up to, but still the
Yeah.
internet existed.
I'm
you
thinking
could still
2008
call.
texting was, but you're right. The movie itself wouldn't have
Yeah.
been.
But still, like in that 11 years, like if you were really,
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was
Like,
famous.
yeah.
So August in the movie was born in 95. So honestly, it's probably, the movie's probably happening contemporarily. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
the
you were
movie's
saying. Like
happening in-
originally,
Yeah.
texting wouldn't have
the
been a
movie's
big
happening
thing.
in like 2007.
But by the time they're like the movie's happening and they're adults,
Yeah. Like she
And,
uses a
like, she'd
payphone
be-
in 2007 to call her.
well, they were more
her
prevalent in
home.
2007.
they would have been more prevalent, yes.
You don't have a cell phone.
But
Well, I mean,
it still would have been easy to find her.
yeah. I mean, I don't think it would have been that difficult.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, that's one of the weird things about it, I think, is like it feels out of place in the time when it's set almost.
Yeah, like
the
it's
things
supposed to
that-
be like 95 or whatever, but it feels like 2008, like 2007. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like
Right. It doesn't really make you feel like it's
Well, and
Yeah.
the August part is happening in 2007.
it is. But I mean, like the
yeah.
flashback to like them getting together,
Yeah.
I don't buy.
I will say that's something I noticed too. When it was a flashback, you didn't really feel like it was a flashback.
No, it just felt like
like
they didn't do enough to establish the time and place.
right. It could get confusing at times.
Like even if it's just like Cars or something, or
Mm-hmm.
a CRT TV or
Right.
VHS tapes or something like just
exactly.
in the living room.
the way
like,
they dress,
yeah, just
like
something
they dress
about
the
that
same
would be,
through the whole movie.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, in 11 years you didn't change that outfit.
yeah. There wasn't a lot of thought
Style.
put into the
Yeah.
time.
And that's what I say is interesting about going back and watching movies is they do make you feel different, and also you notice different things. I would have never thought of that back then, but that is what takes the magic away some for me and now. But like I said, I still love this movie. I like the feeling it gives me about August Rush's part, and of course Freddie Highmore and Robin Williams I think kill it. So
Yeah, it was all right.
All right, guys. So I guess that wraps up August Rush for us. We're going to have some messages from the library, and then we'll be back to discuss The Crow. Okay, just a few announcements from the library. If you have picked up your book, Soul of an Octopus, just remember that the book club is on the 21st at 6 p.m. Also, if you are a fast reader and can read it before then, you're welcome to join us for the discussion. And then on the 28th, we're having for adults a game night. It's basically going to be where you can come and just play some board games that are in our collection. Maybe even just test them out, see if you want to take them home for the family. But just join us. Like I said, that's 5:30 on the 28th. And then we have some youth stuff coming up.
Yeah, on Friday, November 18th at 5:30, we're going to our Real Readers program. We're going to be showing 12 Angry Men from 1959, starring Henry Fonda. It's a fantastic film. So it's open for teens from 6th to 12th grade.
Okay.
And then on Tuesday, November 29th at 6:30, we're going to have Time Out Together and a Dino Party. So,
okay. Because Dinovember
is our theme for youth services this month. So
okay.
It'll be a good time. We'll have some snacks and story time, and maybe if you want to come dressed as a dinosaur, by all means.
Yes, that would be awesome. Please do that. So yeah, just join us for all of those events, and of course follow us on all social media for announcements of our next event. All right, so now it's time to discuss The Crow.
Yeah.
So if you could just, I guess, tell us why you chose The Crow.
So why I chose The Crow is, well, genuinely I thought you would like it. The movie means a lot to me, because it kind of, I saw it, it was 94, so it would have been like, I probably didn't actually see it till maybe 95.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been about 12. And it just kind of hit that right moment where starting to get into music and darker films and more,
right.
More adult films, and it just struck a chord with me. I love, and it's continued to mean more to me as the years go by. Because I think when I first watched it, it was just like, this is a cool movie.
Right.
Like the soundtrack is awesome. Brandon Lee's amazing. It looks awesome. It just oozes like cool grunge, like gothic, like it's just got a great feeling, and it was all the visuals are amazing, and over time the movies just meant more to me. And I think it is at the heart of the movie is a romance that he wants to come back to avenge what happened to him.
Right.
And what, it's like they say at the end of the movie, she quotes, she's saying,
or something,
buildings burn, people die, but love lasts forever. And I think it's just like, it just means more to me now. As I've gotten older. I mean, all the stuff that I love about it, I still love about it. I still
right.
love the visuals and the soundtrack, and Brandon Lee, who, of course, tragically was killed on set. And you can't watch the movie and not be in the back of your head.
Right.
And it's like the nature of the film makes that you can't not think about it. This guy coming back from the dead.
And he actually died.
Yeah, and he died during the film, and during the scene that he dies in the film is when he
actually died.
When he was shot.
Right.
And
so crazy how that happened.
And that can't help but make the movie even more meaningful.
Right. And I think in a way because The Crow's kind of like a cult classic.
Yeah, it's a cult classic.
I don't know. It's a good movie. I don't know if it would have reached the status that it has now if he had not been shot during the movie.
So before this, he had mostly done, he did Showdown in Little Tokyo. He was kind of trying to get out from his dad's.
Yeah, this was supposed to be like his breakthrough.
This was good. Yeah, this was going to be his big movie where it was like something, it was still like an action movie, but it was more character driven, different vibe than just your standard like rapid fire. Or whatever. So I think it was still been a breakout movie for him. I think it still got great reviews when it came out. Even just, of course, they couldn't help but mention what had happened. But and he is incredible in the film. He has just this natural, like his dad, just this natural screen presence, and you can't help but just be drawn to what he's doing and his physical performance and just his acting. maybe it might not have been as successful right out of the gate, because it was very successful for the budget that it had.
Right.
It made like $100 million on like a $23 million budget. Well, I mean, he would have gone on to do who knows what after this.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
he
it
didn't
would
have
have
that
been, and it would have
chance.
been, that's the movie that launched him.
Right.
Like, you know,
And that was the plan for it.
yeah, the movie was a big part of my teenage years.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure it was for a lot of kids, because it was like the go-to goth movie.
Right.
I mean, you know, Hot Topic wouldn't exist without the Crow. It's like there's so much Crow merchandise and like
Right.
black leather and, you know, white and black makeup and
I think it really brought the goth, like, though the gothic aesthetic had definitely existed with
Yeah.
like The Cure and like all that kind of stuff through the 80s, and then I think it really brought it up to the forefront in the 90s and made it like Draven's cool. And
Yeah, I mean,
I've met children now named Draven because their parents saw
Are
the
big
Crow
fans of the
back
Crow.
in like
Right.
90. Yeah, like
Also, that's kind of a cool name.
it
it is a cool
I
name.
like that name.
It is a really cool name.
I know, right?
But
Let's just all change our name to Draven.
it's the Draven podcast.
That's right.
Yeah, so I don't know. The movie just means a lot to me. It brings back a lot of memories, and it's more, you know, somber and meaningful, and I think it's very romantic, despite how dark it is.
Mhm.
And I think it touches a lot of chords in me for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the movie. It's just I just love the movie to death, and I could watch it anytime. It's one of those I can throw on and always find something new to enjoy.
Yeah. I'll start by saying, just generally, I like the movie. I thought it was good. This is a good example of playing off last time when we talked about action movies, how I don't like those. This is like the level of action I'm okay with.
Yeah.
It's not super, it's got a story, and it's not like constantly action.
Yeah, there's not like prolonged action sequences, really.
They're
It's
very
like
quick,
short bursts.
But they're
Yeah.
important. They're full of action when it is action.
yeah, and
but it's just little bursts here.
They're very
and there.
character driven. There's still
Right.
a scene there, like, you know, where he's going after the guy with the dreadlocks and the knives. I forget his name. There's still like there's a conversation going on there
the
about
whole
what's
time.
going on, even though it's kind of a fight sequence.
Right.
And you know, it ends very abruptly.
Yeah.
And but yeah,
It's kind of like you could remove the action and it would still make sense.
Yeah.
Like it could be like a Western, and he's walking up and he just slaps him with a glove.
yeah,
And that would be like, oh, that makes sense, because there's still that story going on.
yeah.
But just in general, the action on this is about the amount of action I enjoy.
Yeah.
Too much more and it would be something that would lose my interest.
Yeah, they actually had like a car chase sequence. I think that was originally going to be much larger
Well, good
than
thing
it
they
is.
got that.
But funny enough, what they did, they couldn't afford to actually shoot a car chase,
Oh, okay.
so they shot with miniatures. So
Oh.
like that little, I think it's when the skank is like trying to go after T-Bird, I think.
Yes.
And the cops are like most of it's all miniatures. the
Oh,
way they
okay.
shot. I think it's mostly
That's pretty
overhead
cool.
shots.
It is.
And those are miniatures because they couldn't afford to do it any other
Okay.
way.
It worked.
Like there's practical ingenuity going on because
Right.
it was I mean, it still costs like, I think the original budget was $15 million, and then after Paramount dropped the movie, who was originally going to produce it or release it, Dimension came in and put in another $8 million to finish the movie.
Oh, okay.
After
Clean it up and all that.
because they had to rewrite scenes and reshoot stuff.
Right.
And then there was a lot of early digital work to work in Brandon Lee's face into certain things.
Right.
Like, you know, the scene where he's putting the makeup on and the Cure song's playing, Burn. None of that's Brandon Lee. That's all the stunt double. Chad Stileski, who actually
okay.
he's now a director. He directed the John Wick movies.
Oh. Okay.
He was in much of The Matrix and stuff too. It was Keanu's stunt double, but that's him doing that. And then, so there's a shot where I think he punches the mirror and you see Brandon Lee's face. That's digital.
Oh, okay.
They put his face in that mirror, and it's like seamless. Like for 1994, I know, like not a huge budget, that looks really incredible.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to mention, because I read something about, because the scene where he dies in the movie is where he died in real life. And they reshot that scene. That the times you see his face during that, it was like superimposed
There's
as
some
well.
superimposed there. It's like superimposed.
And I did not notice it.
Well,
No, it's very
very
seamless.
good.
And it's like the shot during the same scene where he's putting the makeup on, and it's like you're looking at him through the window. That's also they superimposed his face over Chad Stahelski.
Yeah, that's wild.
It was originally he was shot through. I mean, I don't know if we want to go into but what happened was.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well touch on it. It's very important to the movie.
I mean, it is important to the movie and the legacy, and it did change a lot of regulations in the industry about how guns are handled. So
Alec
originally,
Baldwin recently had the same thing happen.
Yeah, the Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, but
it's a very similar incident.
Yeah,
because it was. I think it was the same thing. It was like a dummy bullet that still had enough charge left in it. So what happened here was, normally they would just buy dummy bullets that never had any charge, any powder in them at all, and what they couldn't get them in time to shoot the scene.
So they made theirs.
So they made theirs by taking live rounds, taking the powder and the charge out, and then just replacing the lead tip.
Yeah,
which would effectively make it a dummy.
Right.
And they had used the gun that Michael Massey used in the scene where he shot Brandon. They had used that previously in another scene with blank rounds.
Right.
Someone, from what I remember, someone left the blank round in.
Oh, okay. See, I heard it was the other way around.
A wad.
Or what I read was they did their made dummy and it got stuck.
Yeah.
And then they didn't realize it and they loaded a live, or not a live.
It wasn't like a live round, but it still had a wad in it. And there was enough left in there to make, because they couldn't, when he was shot, they didn't know, like he had, because they thought it
was part of the movie.
Yeah,
part of his acting.
Like when they rehearsed it, I think he
was supposed to fall back,
and then he
fell forward.
He fell forward, and they couldn't even find the wound,
right?
Because he was kind of covered in blood to begin with, but once they got it, and it was just like you could barely tell. It was all internal bleeding,
right?
And so when they reshot that, they had to change it to where he gets thrown out of a window instead of being shot through a grocery bag. And if I remember, it was not the person. It was not the armorer who was supposed to handle the guns. It was a prop master, because I forget what it was exactly, where the armorer wasn't on set.
Yeah, and that it's pretty tragic because, like I said, the way I read about it, it was, what's the two words, dummy, and what's the other?
Blank.
So they made their own dummy. And that essentially they removed the powder and the other stuff in the bullet. I can't think of the word right now, but they removed that. So then there's still the tip or whatever. The bullet technically is there, but then I guess it got stuck, and then they put a blank in, which is essentially not a bullet, but has the powder, and it's used for more explosive look of a shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what it was is basically, there was a bullet in there, and then they put this other one in it, not realizing there was a bullet in it, and it essentially created a bullet again.
Yeah.
And that's really tragic. I mean,
because they had used it previously on like a close-up shot of
I think that's when they usually use the.
That's when they'll use a blank round that'll still give you the explosion, the fire.
Right. Exactly. So. What it was is they used both, and remnants of both caused a bullet.
Yeah.
And that's really tragic.
And they did it all with like a pair of pliers. Like, this was not done the way it should have been done.
Right.
Yeah, so the dummies are made by pulling the lead tip off, emptying out the explosive, and detonating the firing cap, the primer, at the base of the bullet. So you can just do that with like hitting it with a hammer.
Right.
And the lead tip will still be there, creating an object that looks like a real bullet, but it's completely safe. The blanks are made by emptying out the explosive and replacing it with black powder for the visual flash, but not detonating the primers. And then the lead tip is not reattached in the blank.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's a quarter load blank with very little explosive in it. Was mistaken for a dummy.
Yeah.
And its lead tip was reattached. So it would look like a dummy bullet, but it would still eject.
Okay.
It would just be at a lower velocity.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't travel as fast.
But it was still enough.
So yeah, they just put the lead tip back on the wrong.
On the wrong. So it wasn't
blank.
stuck.
They put the lead tip onto the quarter load blank.
Okay.
So that's actually what killed him, because it was a blank that they had put.
They got it mixed up.
Yeah.
For a long time after that, what they would do is they'd play with the camera angles so the gun was never actually like pointing at the actors themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
And that
Well, and on the reading, I was reading over the book a little bit more. Alex Proyas, the director, didn't know how exactly they wanted Eric and Shelley to die. Like, were they going to be stabbed or shot or whatever? So it just happened that I think like the previous day, they had decided that he was going to be shot, through a grocery bag. And
like they weren't prepared.
Yeah, just reading the making of book about the movie, it's like it's really hard to read, and like how much promise, like he was going to get married in 3 weeks.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because the characters were getting married the next day.
Yeah, I mean it's like there's so many
crazy.
There's so many just like eerie similarities between what happened. And,
that's wild.
Like, and Michael Massey, who was handling the firearm, he didn't work for a couple of years.
Yeah, he didn't. It wasn't his fault, but
it's not.
It was just
fault.
so tragic in it. He did not work for a while.
Well, I mean, you're responsible for someone's death,
right? Even if it's not your fault, you technically killed someone.
Yeah. So that's got to really weigh on your.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, like aside from the tragedy, I think it's just an incredible film.
Yeah.
You like that the action wasn't over.
I felt like
too much.
It had a good story. It had the right amount of action.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's like one of my favorite movies I've ever watched, but I did enjoy it. I actually turned it on, and then I was like, well, either I was like going to be doing some other stuff, and it pulled me in enough because I was just going to watch like a few minutes of it to get it started, and then I was going to take care of some stuff and then come back and watch it. It pulled me in enough that I ended up watching the whole thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, I mean, I liked it enough.
You didn't watch it in parts.
I didn't.
I'm impressed.
Well, minus the last 10 minutes because my DVD player, I don't have the remote for it.
Oh, yeah.
And it it wouldn't start back at the place I was. So the next morning I finished the last 10 minutes on a different, on my PlayStation that would let me pick this chapter. But that was technical difficulties.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I liked it enough that it did pull me in, and you're right. I mean, with the darkness of the movie, of course, not even including the tragedy, but just the movie itself, the darkness of the movie, the music, the gothic feel of it.
Yeah, the visual style.
It does a great job of that, and I can't say there's tons of movies that I think do that like this one did. It did it well. Just even if you're going for the technical stuff, like you said, the chase scene. That's a good little short chase scene, makes sense, is important. They shot it with miniatures, which is really cool, and it just works for this movie.
Yeah. I mean, the action doesn't overwhelm the story or the characters,
right? And the action didn't seem,
and it's
not believable,
and it's motivated,
right?
It's motivated by his vengeance,
right?
By what he.
Which, I mean, for the most of the movie, to me, it almost has the same feel as like Death Wish. That's like the main thing I thought of the whole time.
On paper, it does. Like he's just avenging his murdered wife.
It's a better done.
But it's like, it's
100%.
And it is like a bit of like a gothic fairy tale too.
Right.
I love that aspect of it. I like it when a movie zigs when it should zag, and you don't expect it to kind of be meaningful. Because I think it's just sold as like a cool action movie.
Right. But there's a lot of heart in it.
It is, and it's like really like when at the end when he's like tired at her tombstone,
right,
and the visage of her comes and picks him up,
right.
It was really sweet.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I could do without that kind of stuff, but
oh my goodness, whatever, you like it deep down.
I mean, I was okay. I would have been okay with, because he's essentially dying when he crawls to her tombstone, and then he like pulls himself up onto it a little bit and has his hand on her tombstone. Yeah, I would have been fine if it ended right there. I think that's to me is a beautiful visual. Yeah. That was more of a beautiful visual than her coming back. But that's because I don't like the love aspect of things. With her coming back, I get it. Yeah. Like it makes sense, and for most people, it's how it should end. But for me, I would have been fine with that being the thing, and
that's his reward,
right?
For he now gets to be with her,
right? And it makes complete sense. That's what I said. Like it makes complete sense. But I also would have been okay. I thought the shot of him crawling to the tombstone and putting his hand on it was beautiful enough
Yeah.
for me.
It's a pretty gory movie. Like, even though there's not a lot
It's
of
very
action,
violent,
there's lots
yeah.
of gore,
Yeah.
there's lots of violence, and it's a comic book movie. It is surprisingly emotional and like super
Right,
yeah.
sweet and emotional.
And even like
know.
I like the relationship
for that.
he has with
The sister.
the sister. That's really sweet, and I love the stuff
It
with
is.
like her and Ernie Hudson, the cop. And,
Yeah.
like, there's a
little-
real heart in the film.
Another
There is.
parallel to real life. His fiance and his sister are still best friends,
Yeah.
and their daughters are
Oh,
best
wow.
friends now. Because she remarried like 10 years later, but she's
Right.
divorced now, and she's like still says that Brandon Lee was the love of her life. But
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
and Shannon Lee are still really close, which is sad, but also another like weird real life
Yeah.
parallel from the.
Yeah, and I will say, going back to the whole comic book thing and all that, I was surprised by the heart that was in this film. I didn't expect that. And I think that's where, once again, the interpretation of a film comes into play as well. It's about who watches it and how they feel about it. Because, like August Rush, like I said, at the end of that movie, I almost have a tear in my eye when he turns around and sees his family.
Yeah.
There was not any time during this movie that I almost shed a tear. Like, it just doesn't do that for me.
Okay.
But it is just the way people interpret it. But for this movie, I think it was good, and I did enjoy the story. You do have to have, for this movie, that love part, because it fuels him.
Yeah.
And it
there's no
makes
movie without-
his part matter more.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, to me, it was Death Wish, but done very well, because it's the same kind of setup. Something happens to somebody that you love. There's some action that you go back. You're a vigilante type person,
Yeah.
and you avenge someone's death or whatever happened to them. I enjoy those kind of stories because it is action that is driven by a story.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, even the Death Wishes, I've seen all of them. So 1 through 5 and the new one. That kind of story I do enjoy. And then, like I said, it has this story. It has a little bit of heart.
yeah.
So I think it was, I liked it. I mean, it was good.
Yeah. I love the supporting cast too. Besides
Yeah.
Brandon Lee, like, I don't know if like Top Dollar, the guy who plays the Michael Wincott, who plays Top Dollar, the main bad,
Right.
I need him to like read audiobooks.
Yeah.
Oh my
That would
God.
work.
His voice, I love. He was in Nope.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't seen it yet.
And it's the first time I've seen him in like 5 years in a movie. And I was like, oh, Michael Wincott, that voice. I love that voice. And
Yeah.
he's so good. And he's a terrific villain. He's always plays a terrific villain, but Top Dollar is like his best performance, I think, because he's so charismatic and you still like he's not a great guy. He's a terrible person, but
Right.
you can't help but kind of just
Enjoy
want to
him a
know
little
more
bit.
about him.
Yeah.
And like
And
just have more of him on screen, like and then Tony Todd and a lot of Michael Massey, of course, and
is it Ernie Hudson that plays the
Ernie
cop
Hudson's
that
the cop.
ends up believing?
Yeah.
Okay. I liked him in it.
Yeah, and a lot of that
he was
scene
really
with that he has with Eric,
Mhm.
like in his apartment, a lot of that was improvised, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay. Now I will say, I think the casting was good in this movie. I don't know that I was like blown away by Brandon Lee as far as when he talked, like his speaking roles. I don't know. There was just something about it that disconnected for me. But he didn't talk a whole lot in the movie. So, I mean, it wasn't like it was a big deal.
No,
But sometimes I felt like it was lacking something for me. I know that's probably like not everyone else's opinion, but
moving on.
yeah.
There we go.
Um,
Well, like, so
But like overall, I thought his performance was great. There was just sometimes that there was something I felt was lacking. Like there's so much heart in the film, and then sometimes I felt like it didn't come through in his delivery of lines. Maybe.
well, what they likely had to do was use the on-set dialogue, so he wasn't around to do the ADR. So like what
So
happens?
maybe that's it.
So what
Yeah, that's
happens
true.
is, or he was they found someone that sounded like him to do
And that
certain
could be it.
lines. Because when they do a movie, they'll record on-set dialogue,
Right.
But oftentimes,
they go back
especially if
and-
it's like something where it's more than just two people sitting at a table talking, there's stuff going on outside, there's
They go-
fans,
Yeah.
there's this, there's
Yeah.
that, and they'll record the on-set dialogue more as a example to go by when they record it in a studio and dub it in later. So since he was killed, he was not able to. I mean, that happens when anybody kind of dies during the making of a movie,
right?
Like, probably. I don't know if like they had recorded all the Heath Ledger's dialogue for. So they probably Nolan, like for Nolan, Christopher Nolan he likes to use the on-set dialogue as much as he can anyway. So they probably have really recorded it very well for that.
Right.
But for this, it might be why his dialogue might sound a little weird,
and that could be it,
and not as like clean and processed as it normally would be. I would imagine that for some stuff they would have had to use a voice double.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes complete sense because, like I said, I thought he was good in the movie. It wasn't that the acting was bad. It was just sometimes the lines didn't have the impact that I knew they should have. So that makes complete sense. It probably was exactly that reason. So I'm glad I brought that up.
They're limited. Like they might have gone back and reshot some scenes had he not died. Which is normal. That normally happens during a movie. And they weren't able to, so they had to use what they had.
Right.
I mean, I think he just has a presence on screen. Like you can't help but look at.
Well,
him.
that's what I say. Like the rest of it, it was just the delivery of certain lines just really fell short for me for some reason.
Yeah.
But so that's why it makes complete sense because other than that, like it was good.
Yeah.
Like he was good in it.
Yeah, and I love there's like one of my favorite little moments is like when it's after he's been shot a couple times, I think, and there's kids in Halloween costumes running by.
Yeah.
And they have flashlights.
I liked that one. Yeah.
That was really sweet.
A good little scene.
One of the things I think about it though is that Brandon Lee being good at all was like a surprise, even though his kung fu movies are not bad,
right?
They're kung fu movies,
right?
And so like when he was initially cast,
did you say
James O'Barr did not want him cast? James O'Barr wrote the original comic, and the original, just to go give you a little bit of backstory. So James O'Barr grew up in foster homes, and he had a girlfriend. He met a girl at 16, and they were going to get married 3 years later, and she was killed by a drunk driver.
Oh, okay.
And he was a mechanic, I think, at the time. But he had been an artist since he was a kid, and so that's where The Crow was born. So because he wanted to avenge the love of his life, And he said later on, like he was, I think, because he had thought like, you're casting this, martial arts guy as this character, when originally like the character in the comics is based on like Iggy Pop for the most part visually, and he's athletic, but he's not like some, it's not that the martial artist is not. So I think he just saw Brandon Lee as like Bruce Lee's son, and he's going to be like, wah, throughout the whole thing. He's like, that's not what I want. And I think he originally wanted Johnny Depp. Like that would have been his choice for the movie, which would have been. I could see that.
The two that turned down the role were Christian Slater and River Phoenix.
Yeah,
were both initially approached.
Yeah, but and James O'Barr said, and him and Brandon Lee became really close during the making of the movie, and he said he wishes he had never created the comic because Brandon died. Like and he took all of his money that he made from the movie, and he bought his mother a car. And he bought him a surround sound system.
Oh, really?
And he gave the rest of it away because he felt like it was blood money.
Right. That would make it rough. I mean, 100%.
And, it definitely affected everyone who worked on the movie from that point on, like how they see their work,
Right.
It's just a movie.
I think it's the guy that didn't work for a long time. I think I read that he's never even watched the movie.
Probably no. I would imagine not. I mean, and then they had to go back. So some other interesting facts. They did have to go back and reshoot that scene. Mm-hmm. The scene where they break in and kill Shelley and Eric. And
he ends up not being
I can't imagine what that is on the same set,
different.
on the same where, and it's just where he died. I can't imagine how rough that, especially for him. Yeah, that must have been. And then. So like before they had figured out to do the digital compositing and put his face on, they had created using a mold that they made of Brandon, a mask. Oh. And they had to axe that because nobody could deal with that. It was
that's
too.
A lot.
I'm amazed they even went that far, and they made a mask. It's like Like, ugh.
Yeah, that would be way too much.
Well, they had made it they did it before he died.
Yeah,
they made it for a stunt
right,
double.
yeah, so
it wasn't like a.
But then they tried to use it.
Yeah, but then they tried to make like a latex mask that someone would
Right.
wear for like certain shots that they needed
After he died.
instead of doing digital compositing.
Right.
But everyone on set was just totally creeped out by it.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
That would've
understandably, it's like
yeah.
I'm amazed they even did that.
Right, yeah. That's
You know,
wild.
they even thought to like, well, just put a mask on someone, it'll be fine. Yeah, the supporting cast is really great, and they really like Ernie Hudson really brings a lot to the movie too.
Yeah,
I mean,
I really liked his performance. It was probably one of my favorites.
yeah. And their relationship they have, you know, him and Brandon.
Right.
Like you really feel that he wants to take care of
The sister.
Shelley's sister, the little girl, and you know, I don't know. There's a good chemistry there.
Right. Yeah, and that, you know, it goes for both movies that we were talking about, like the people that and I think we've touched on before, but basically the actors in the movie can really make a difference to a character. In August Rush, Robin Williams' character probably would have been one-dimensional without Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And these characters are really brought to life by these actors. I think the performance of all of the actors were really good, and I'm glad that I brought up the thing with Brandon Lee and some of his lines, because it almost confused me, because I thought the performance was good, but then things would fall flat. It makes so much sense that there's a reason. But it's a good movie that has a good story. It has the right amount of action, and then the acting just really pulls it all together.
Yeah.
His, I mean, I'm sure that's in your list of fun facts too, but like Brandon Lee did his makeup because he didn't like the way that it looked when the makeup artist, because it was too clean. And so he'd put it on and then he'd go to sleep. He'd put it on at night before bed. And then that way in the morning it'd be like worn out.
Yeah, he was so into the role.
He was super excited.
He lost like, I think 40 pounds for the. Like,
oh, wow.
He was very thin by then, because he was working so hard too.
Yeah. He also liked the goth aesthetic. Like he drove around in a hearse and stuff. Like he was into like that scene a little bit too.
Yeah.
So
I've always wanted a hearse to drive.
Me too.
That's like my dream car.
He was a very special man.
Yeah.
But
but I think it's always important to touch on things like that. Like I said, it doesn't, in my opinion, I think it helped it become more of a cult classic because of the story behind it.
Yeah.
But the movie itself is still good, but the tragedy behind the movie is important to talk about, and especially because it has so many parallels with the movie itself.
Yeah.
And I think it brings a whole nother level when you're watching it if you know about it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Which of course I'd already heard about it before I watched the movie, and you know, you're sitting there watching it, and that's in the back of your mind no matter what. And it's just. It was definitely tragic, and but it does bring like a whole nother level of interest to the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Well. But just, you know, as a movie, I think it's just a very unique concoction, especially for 1994. I mean, it's heavily inspired by something like Blade Runner or the first Batman with the Gothic architecture and all the rain and the bleakness of everything, and I don't think a lot of people even knew it was based on a comic book.
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't like a big like Marvel DC comic. It was an indie comic, which is really it's a beautiful comic. Like it's all black and white, and the art is really incredible.
Yeah.
And in general, the movie is pretty true to the comic. Like some characters are changed. Like I think Top Dollar is. T-Bird, I think, is the top dollar. Like he's the top dollar character in the comic. But I don't know why they really reversed that. But in general, like it's a good distillation of the comic into like an hour and 40-minute movie.
Well, that's good.
So there have been several attempts. I mean, there were sequels, but there have been several attempts at remakes where people have just quit, basically. Like Jason Momoa was going to be Eric Draven back in like 2018, But now there is a remake that they just wrapped filming like a month ago with Bill Skarsgård playing the Crow. So it should be coming up this year,
that would be
and I think
good.
he would be great.
I think it still would be a terrible movie, but it's good casting.
I think he's going to do a good job, but so many times people have been like, I just can't. I don't feel like I can do it because of the story behind like Brandon Lee and all that.
And I mean, like they made the sequels. Like The City of Angels is the only one that got a theatrical release. The others were all direct to video, and it's just one of those where they just should have left it alone because it doesn't need anything else, and you don't need it. Like it's such a unique.
Yeah,
it's like trying to remake The Breakfast Club or something.
Yeah,
like it's such a time capsule for what that time was.
Exactly.
You know, like 1994 when this came out, like this was what was happening. Like this, the music, the aesthetic, it was unique for 1994. Exactly, if you transplant that to 2022 and try to do something that's the same thing.
Right.
Now if they go completely different and just do something very different and it's not dark and rainy and
yeah, I feel like they could do a modern
version.
Because I feel like the
story's kind of timeless.
Because I feel like grunge is kind of getting a bit of a resurgence, like at least in terms of like style and stuff with Gen Z and stuff, and like there's definitely enough like fatalism and like kind of. That's the word, in the like humor and the like media of now, enough fascination with like the darker that they could definitely, I think if they based it now and leaned into a modern representation of those things, it could be really good.
It's just like,
but I don't know.
It's one of those movies like I see if they try to. One of the things I love about the movie is it's kind of set in its own bubble.
Right.
It's not really set in any
other world,
any particular city. Right. I don't think. I mean, it's supposed to, it's mostly like they shot it in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's generally like Devil's Night it's largely kind of sprung out of Detroit, I think. So it's kind of like in a Midwest or like like middle America kind of Detroit area. But it's kind of in its own little snow globe of like goth and, rain.
Exactly.
And it's like, I can't imagine there being like cell phones and computers in a Crow movie.
Right.
Like it just doesn't work. So I think if they try to just make it similar to the first film, which is just its own little world separate from reality, then I think it might work. And I think Bill Skarsgård is a great choice.
Right.
Like if you had to cast someone as Eric Draven,
he's
a good actor, and just physically, I can see him in that role. Like his face actually looks a lot like the comic book.
All right, so I guess that about wraps up our discussion on The Crow.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I did. Like I said, it was enjoyable. So I've always kind of wanted to see it because I knew I would possibly like it.
Its importance in pop culture.
Yeah, it definitely carries that importance. So yeah, that's our podcast for this time.
For our next podcast, we're going to have Travis back on, and we're going to talk about Jack Frost, both of them.
Yeah, so we'll be discussing the Michael Keaton Jack Frost, which is like a family movie, and then we'll discuss the other Jack Frost, which is like a
horror serial
movie.
Killer.
Yeah,
there's
definitely different.
Snowman serial killer.
Right.
So we're not covering all of the Jack Frost children's cartoons though that exist out there.
No.
So we're yes.
It's going to be just enough to get through the Michael Keaton film.
Just the Michael Keaton film and the Jack Frost serial killer movie.
I like the other Michael Keaton movie, from what I remember.
I'm sure there's a love story.
No, it's a family story. It's the dad and the kid, isn't it?
How does the family start?
Yeah, that's true. We already talked about it. I'm bitter enough that I just pretend those parts don't exist.
Okay.
But I think it will be an interesting episode.
Yeah, we'll get Travis to talk
So
more.
basically, we'll be back to talk about Jack Frost.
So the Michael Keaton Jack Frost has a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes. 19%. I want to check what the other one is, just to tease this episode.
Probably more.
Probably better, I would imagine. Nope, it's 6%.
Okay.
So it should be a fun episode.
Yeah.
So yeah,
so good.
if you want to watch those movies ahead of time, and then join us on December 1st for that discussion. But until then, I'm Aaron,
I'm Josh.
and this has been Real Opposites.